The information is presented for educational purposes only, is not intended to diagnose or prescribe for any medical or psychological condition, or to prevent, treat, mitigate, or cure such conditions. This information is only presented herein for entertainment and educational purposes only. Living Waters Wellness Center was formed after we discovered how to heal my own body from the multiple symptoms, including allergies, asthma, chronic fatigue, back pain, psoriasis, acne, hives, yeast infections, and finally, cancer. After 20 years of trying numerous different treatments, everything from medical to cleanses, iridology, muscle therapy, acupuncture, acupressure, homeopathy, naturopathy. These experiences led us to discover the recipe that became known as the 4 Natural Laws of Healing, combining multiple natural healing modalities to fully detox, cleanse the body, and then allowing the body to take the perfect nutrition to fully restore the body back to its innate health. This became known as the 10-Day Healing Retreat. We have helped thousands of people just like you get their health restored so they can live their life to the fullest extent. If you want to know what that looks like, go to livingwaterscleanse.com and click on the video 4 Natural Laws of Healing, or call the office at 208-378-9911. 9911. 9911. Hi guys, we begin today's show. I want to ask you to do yourself a favor. If you have been listening to the show for any length of time, I have done 5 shows on harmful effects of electromagnetic radiation from small cell towers. The D.C. Court of Appeals ruled in August that the FCC was arbitrary, capricious, and unlawful in stating that the towers cause no harm, as there are well over 18,000 studies showing harm. Boise and Meridian have failed to stop the deployment of these dangerous towers, and we have already seen people go into AFib, brain fog, sleep issues, and cancer. We must stop this, so Idahoans for Safe Technology is mounting a legal fund to go to court. We need your participation in raising money for the legal team. Go to idahoansforsafetechnology.org, buy yourself 1 raffle ticket or 100 raffle tickets, as many as you want, to win a side of beef. And if you want to know more about the harmful effects, go to last week's show where I interviewed our guest, Dr. Martin Paul, at wholebodydetoxshow.com. That's wholebodydetoxshow.com. Look up Dr. Martin Paul. I did one of these shows a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't hit the record until 20 minutes in. I know. We had to go back and start over. You know, once you've done part of a show, you kind of forget. Did I ever talk about that? You know how that goes.
Full disclosure, I've done it myself, so I'm not mad at you.
Right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm David DeHaas from Living Waters Wellness Center, and your host of the Whole Body Detox Show. And today we've got another exciting episode. I have brought on special guest, Dr. Edwin Floyd. And Dr. Edwin Floyd has quite a pedigree here. He is not only a chiropractor, educated in chiropractic, but also educated in homeopathy. And that's why I reached out to him originally. But I also discovered he's also versed in acupuncture. He's developed a brand new program of healing, and we're going to talk about that today. So, Dr. Floyd, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to go back to the beginning here. I'm always curious. The curious cat here wants to know how people, what their journey was like, and when did you decide did you go to chiropractic school first? Which was first on your list?
Yes, I'm trained and licensed in California as a doctor of chiropractic. In fact, I am now president of my chiropractic school.
Oh, fantastic. Which school is that?
I graduated from the University of Pasadena School of Chiropractic in 1977.
All right, very good. And what made you decide to become a chiropractor?
I got hurt in college, and chiropractor put me back together. I had never heard of it, but I was going to the traditional medical doctor, getting the pain relievers and the muscle relaxants, and that was just slowing me down, making things worse. And a chiropractor put me back together. And the common story, so many people have, that type of medical. And, I said, I want to be one of those.
Right. Did you have were you ever thinking about becoming a doctor of any kind initially?
Yeah, I was a pre-med student. I was pre-med at the time.
Oh, okay. So, wow, path divergent.
Yeah. That's basically right. I pretty much the same courses. So, I was already there. And so I just instead of going to medical school, I went to chiro school.
Yeah. And then you became a homeopath as well. When did that happen? When did that occur?
Well, I became a diplomate. I went back after chiro school and took a master's in biology and clinical nutrition. And then I went into a diplomate program, postgraduate diplomate program, and became a diplomate to the American Chiropractic Board of Nutrition. And I was working as a chiropractic nutritionist as my specialty. And in doing so, I was noticing there was still a piece. I wasn't getting the whole thing. I wasn't tapping in. People were getting well, but there was still this dynamic part I really wasn't touching. And I got an invite to join a class in Seattle, the Evergreen Institute, the International Foundation for Homeopathy was offering a professional class to physicians. And I joined that class and spent a year going back and forth from Los Angeles to Seattle. And after that class, I pretty much discovered that piece I've been looking for.
Well, I'm going to tell you my story of how I discovered homeopathy. Our housekeeper suggested to my wife, she says, no, there's this guy over on Orchard Street. He comes across a little odd, but he actually has really good results. And he's a homeopath. And we were both like, what's that? Our daughter was vaccine injured at the time, and we didn't know it. We didn't know what was going on with her, but he disclosed that. He says, don't you ever put another needle in her. You'll kill her. And we're going like, what? I mean, she was banging her head against the floor. She'd pass out, and we didn't know what was going on. And so I remember that first day in the office, I'll never forget it because, he's this little tiny guy, and he became a homeopath because of his health condition. But that was my first brush, and started using homeopathy in 1991. And that was really, I would say, the major divergent for me of going down a road of learning about other alternatives. And of course, our first one was, oh my God, if we don't vaccinate, what do we do? Aren't these kids susceptible to, won't they die? Yeah. And he gave us a book called, it's out of print. It's called Don't Get Stuck. And my wife copied that, and she still has to this day. So that was our first brush with that. So I've always found it to be a very interesting profession. And so maybe just let's talk to the.
Well, who was the homeopath you went to, if I can ask?
Yeah, that was Dr. Kirkpatrick.
Ken Kirkpatrick?
Ken Kirkpatrick.
We trained him.
Get out.
We trained him. He made his transition. I think he passed.
Yeah, he did. I think
he was a good guy. We trained him. He was in our class.
I'll be darned. Wow.
Yep. Nice guy. Nice guy. I remember him. Little guy, frail little guy.
Yeah, very frail. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Ken. Yeah, Kirkpatrick. He was in I believe it was our Dallas class.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, he was the first guy. I remember, he was pretty quiet demeanor. Yeah. Not much for explaining everything. And of course, I'm the curious guy. Well, why are we doing this? And what's that for?
Yeah, he was good. I hear his name come up from time to time. I'm very proud of him. He left a good legacy. He's well known and respected in the community. That's good. Not all natural medical healing, homeopathy. Everybody doesn't always leave a good legacy.
Yeah. I came into his office one day and the shelves were bare. The place was stripped down. And I go, what, you remodeling? You gonna paint or something? He goes, no, they came and took my stuff. And I go, what? Who came and took your stuff? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I go, what? You say they come and raided your place and took all your stuff? He goes, yeah. Any charges? No. Has this happened before? Yeah. And this is 1990s, right? I'm like, mind blown, total mind blown. I was like, what? Well, you can't just do that.
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, when I came to Boise in 1996. I've been here, this is my 26th year. Yeah. And there weren't a lot of people around sticking their necks out, calling it, now you have the functional medical group and all that, but that's relatively new. Oh yeah. You could get in big trouble practicing dynamic healing. Yeah, in the 90s.
The fear that people try to spread, it's absolute. Well, we're seeing it right now with this what's going on right now. But I don't want to go down that road. We can stay there all day. So let's explain to people homeopathy. What is it? Why does it work so doggone well?
See, there are basically 5 laws of healing. There are 5 laws.
Okay, let's talk about
the laws of dynamics, or what we call biodynamics. It basically states that living organisms are animated by an organized intelligence, and that intelligence rules with unbounded sway and moves through the body. And if it is not altered or taken out of focus by dynamic toxins like anger, fear, grief, guilt, its expression is in a manner that is joyful and painless. Then there's the laws of biochemistry. It basically is you are what you eat, chemistry in, chemistry out. And if the chemicals you are consuming are compatible with your energy that is animating you, then the outcome expression is one that is joyful and painless. Then you have the laws of contraries. Those are your medical doctors. They practice the anti-practice. Their mission is to save your life, treat or cure your condition, or palliate it to the point so that even though it may be killing you, you don't feel it. So it's contrary to the natural expression. People think it's not a bad thing. I mean, there are millions of people walking this earth as a result of the application, appropriate application of the laws of contraries. It goes against what is. Or if whatever would remain was not addressed, it would kill you.
Right.
So the laws of contraries are there to go against that which could kill you if not addressed. It's got to be something contrary to that. Then there are the laws of similars. That's homeopathy. The laws of similars says that in nature, there is a dynamic to the animals, vegetables, chemicals, minerals, etc. And that dynamic has a picture. And so when we get sick, we create an alternative picture other than health that is similar to a picture that's naturally occurring in nature. Now, the laws of similar says that similar things expel one another. It's like matter, antimatter. They're opposite things. And when they collide, they annihilate one another and it creates big energy. And that law of physics is what similars is based on. It's the introduction of something that could produce a picture of dis-ease that an individual is expressing. And if you gave this to a healthy person who is not have a picture, it would create in that healthy person a picture of dis-ease. But when you give it to a person who's already expressing that picture, it annihilates it and takes it away. And when you do that, what's left is the natural animating process. So you go on to grow yourself into health. So you really don't treat anything. You're liberating the vital force to grow you into health.
It's fascinating. And as
hold on, one more. Then there's the laws. Right. There's the laws of structure and function. That's the 5th law. Those are your chiropractors. Their law is that function is directly based on structure. And the way your structure is the way you function. They believe that your structure disrupts the vital force. And if you're disrupting the vital force by correcting the structure, you're liberating that vital force. So then the body can go on and grow yourself into health.
You know what's fascinating to me in all this? It's the year 2022. And growing up as a young kid in the 60s and 70s, there was in my small town, there was one chiropractor, and he was dismissed. They called him a quackapactor. And I never did understand why. I didn't, as a young kid, I didn't know. I fell off a telephone pole in 1982, and I was in severe pain. And my in-laws says, well, go see a chiropractor. And I go, well, does that work? And they go, of course it does. We've been using them for years. Looking at me like, where are you from? And so that was 1982. And yeah, I had to get several adjustments. I had really done myself in falling off that pole.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, just to take it all the way forward, as I understand it, pre-1920, your naturopathy and homeopathy were really what you would go see for to be treated. Am I right?
Well, if you did not want the chemicals, if you did not want the drugs and the surgical procedure, and as historically, there's always been 30 to 50% of our nation that did not buy into the medical model. I mean, what we're having now with the mask, no mask vaccination, this is not new. This has always been this. When the last pandemic we had back in the early 1900s, they had that sole issue then. They were wearing masks, and there are those who refused. They were given. So what we're going through now isn't new. It's a philosophical approach. The thing is that there is supposedly a separation between church and state in this country, the two separate ways in which we govern our lives. The church is kind of given over to the state. So the healing model that really conforms more to the church isn't expressed and offered. And so the people are not exposed to it because the church has failed and they've kind of bought into the other model. But there's always been a medical healing model. It's biblical. Throughout the Bible, you can find these concepts where there's always been a distinction.
Yeah, you're right. It is really sad to see what the church has really had lack of leadership during this time. I've spoke at it quite loudly many times. Very disturbing. But we are where we are for sure. So tell me about your practice today. So how do you integrate these? When someone comes into you, they're not feeling work, where do you begin?
Well, we integrate, we really do, we interrogate. We don't take a case history. So when you come in, you're going to spend an hour, a couple hours or whatever, and we're going to learn about you. And of course, everyone comes in because they have a chief complaint. They have an issue. They're
Right.
coming in. But in our model, we want to find out, why is your body behaving that way? It's not about what happened, what did it, etc. It's why is your body behaving that way? And so we interrogate you. And we have to find out. Now, there are levels of healing that animates us. There's that spiritual component, the mental component, the emotional component, then you have a physical component. Most people come in, well, I'm not most, I say half. Half of the people come in with a physical issue, be it migraines or menstrual cramps or digestive issues, etc. The other half come in because of depression, sadness, panic, anxiety, etc. So whereas the traditional medical model wants to X-ray and run lab work and MRIs, and we do these things too as needed. They want to find out the physical component. What is it that's going on? Is it a tumor? Is it a bug, a beastie, a virus? So they run all these tests to look for some physical objective element that is causing the body to behave that way. Whereas we're looking for the dynamic model, the anger, the fear, the grief, the guilt, those things that have happened years ago that are manifesting in our lives today. So most of our patients come by referral because whoever they had been going to did an excellent job quite often on the physical chemical component, but there's still that element missing. And so they send them to us to address that element. And that's what we do.
That's fantastic. And we see that all the time here through our 10-day healing retreat. People self-discover like, oh my gosh, I am so upset with
Yeah.
my ex-husband or
Yeah.
my
Whoever
mom,
it
or
is. Yeah.
not unusual. I remember a client, she had a tumor the size of a grapefruit on her breast when she came to see us.
Yeah.
Did not want to do traditional medical. And her mom had her old church praying for her to go to the Huntsman Cancer Institute and get her breast cut off. This gal had, 4 young children. The youngest was about a year old at the time. But this is her choice. This is what she wanted to do. But through that discovery, it was left side female energy, and by golly, it was that angst between her and her mother that had been the problem her whole time. And
Yeah.
I remember sharing with her, I says, this is your challenge. You got to clear this.
Yeah. And
when she was away from home and when she was here, she came to us a couple of times. And she would you could see that kind of like a flower that's wilted. You pour water on it and all of a sudden blooms.
Yeah.
Every time she was here, that would be happen. I was wishing she lived here in Boise. She should come, hang out here for 6 months a year until she, figured out how to clear it. But yeah, you're right. We see that all the time. But it's always cool to see the people self-discover. Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
And that's where the homeopathy comes in. So you have to animate the person with the homeopathic remedy. Then you have to nourish the person. That's where the vitamins and all that comes in. Then you got to hydrate them, with the water, either detoxifying, colon, whatever you're doing. You need the water. Then they have to immobilize them, get them in motion, and then you let them rest. Make sure that they're resting well. That's the 5-fold formula that we use. And most of the people who are coming in are coming in now. And now we're seeing so many of the COVID, people are frustrated, they're angry, they're fearful. They need some guiding. This is some guidance. And I really am highly offended by the way the unvaccinated has been treated. They've been dismissed by kooks or quacks or some kind of antisocial people in a total disregard for the faving process that's taking place. These are a lot of people, and there are probably some social people, and they don't like the government and the conspiracy and all that. Maybe, that too. But you have a lot of people who are attempting to their best to apply their faith, their favors. And this is my issue with the church, is that those people are not being embraced. They're being hung out as some kind of a kook because they choose a different path for themselves and their family. And that's what we do. We try to become, and in doing so, our practice is kind of transitioned into a ministry. So we're not a church, we're not preaching salvation or anything like that, but a ministry of healing, a healing ministry. Most churches have music ministries or youth ministries or prison ministries. I've not found a church that has a healing ministry. So in my opinion, that is the integral part of, if you are a church, then you should have the very definition of a church. The first thing you should establish is a healing ministry. And in going out, as we've started doing this, and our practice has evolved into more of a ministry, finding a church with a healing ministry, they're just not out there.
And that's what has been bizarre to me is you talk about the Bible, and it talks about where 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I am also. And they talk about the laying on of hands, and there are many churches that do that, but until there's enough fear that, we can't use that, or they forget about it, I guess. I don't know. It's blown my mind. I remember having this conversation. It actually saved my daughter. This is a true story. I don't want to disclose any names, but anyway, she was going to a local school, and they were going to take this trip to Mexico, and the nurse says, well, you've got to get vaccinated. And we didn't vaccinate. I said, no, we're not doing that. Where's the exemption? Oh, we're not giving that. You have to do that. And I says who? She says, well, the XYZ higher ups. So I called the XYZ higher ups, and they said, no, that's not us. That's that school. And so I went back. I remember having this with the principal. I says, well, now you guys were a Christian school. Do you not believe in God? And they looked at me. I says, come on, this is why would you put a foreign substance into your body, aluminum adjuvants that are going to, cause problems with their brain? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
If you really truly believe what you believe, then she should be able to go. It's on her. It's on us.
Yeah.
But get this, she didn't go on that trip. They wouldn't let her. But they allowed her to go on a trip to Europe. They didn't have to vaccinate if they went to Europe. I thought it was just bizarre.
Yeah, I know.
Her friends of hers did go on that Mexico trip, did get vaccinated, and this day they've had some severe female problems, and the mother is convinced that it all started back on that Gardasil vaccine.
Yeah, it's the conspicuous absence of applied spirituality. I mean, it's scary. The application of a spiritual walk. I mean, we have a fundamental understanding and intellectual acceptance of the possibility of there being something greater than ourselves, but the actual application into our daily lives is not there. I mean, we have some basic discipline, prayer, fasting, meditation, stuff, but the actual concepts. And every healing art was built on dynamic spiritual concepts: homeopathy, chiropractic, naturopathy, acupuncture. And at some point, they all turned into medicine. They kind of bent the knee to bail.
Fascinating.
Naturopathy became natural medicine. Now we have a naturopath here. We're starting the Homeopathic Wellness Center. We have Dr. Melody Keller coming aboard. She's a naturopath trained at the Bastille University. We're excited to have her. She's having to she has to go and get a pharmacology license, just go pass a pharmacology board so you can prescribe drugs, become licensed as a naturopath here in Idaho.
Well, there's two groups. When they passed that bill a couple of years ago, they gave, you could go down that road where you could do both or not. And so, I wasn't, I don't want to get into licensure laws, but I think they're all bad.
I mean, I'm just saying, somaitry and the beauty of we were tired. Chiropractic became physical medicine, homeopathy became homeopathic medicine, it all became medicine. And once you add medicine to whatever you're doing, you have bent the knee to mechanistic, reductionistic medical science, and you're no longer healing.
So once you come in, once you take this, when you start delving into and going down the rabbit hole with these people and helping them self-discover what's going on, how do you end up applying? So you basically now you have a large toolbox. You have the 5 laws.
Right. And
so you can
let the
pull out either one of those toolboxes.
Yeah, because we start with the homeopathic remedy. We got to get what we call the living image. What's going on with this patient? And it's in that interrogation we find out about, like you're saying, the mother issues, the father issues, the husband issues, the boss issues, the job issues. Their whole life is just awful. So many people who are existing, they're not living. And yet that dynamic physis process is begging to get out. I mean, some of the signs and symptoms and diseases we have could be seen as the dynamic process attempting to get out. So we start with that, and then we give a homeopathic remedy to open them up. And then their health starts growing, and then we get exposed to their eating habits and, the things that people eat, believing they're healthy,
Right.
We take quite many liberties with what we call acceptable for human consumption.
When the
plan, they say this is good, so I'll eat it.
It's in a box. It's got a pretty color. I like the label.
Got a pretty color and it tastes good. And so, and then they're into the habit of that. So you've got to start breaking that habit. Unfortunately, human beings, we're creatures of habit. And so as you start healing, you have habits you got to address. So we move more into a nutritional lifestyle type mode. And then the acupuncture part, we do a meridian. We do the 14-point meridian based on the work of the late Dr. John Fee. He was a chiropractor who developed the Touch for Health system. And a good friend of mine, I miss John, he's a good man. And he made his transition, but we honor him by doing his work. And then we stimulate the meridians and keep the energy flowing. So once we get the energy flowing, instead of treating and curing things, we are coaching people as they are growing themselves into health.
I like that, growing into health.
Yeah, you grow health.
Yeah.
You don't treat, health is a spiritual dynamic. It is not a chemical dynamic. So you don't treat and cure, you grow health.
When I was, and the reason why I got sick and was not sick again was because of all the junk I ate, all the junk food. And like you mentioned, it's chemistry. And I talk today now, and let me just ask you if you would agree with this. Basically, we become addicted to these chemicals that are in these foods. And trying to get off that is no different than any addict trying to break that habit, right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And we've learned over the years that you don't do that quickly. You just make the patient miserable and they leave.
Yeah, a couple steps forward, step back. Hey, get this, you'll love this story. So this is 1972, approximately. My wife was sitting in her great aunt's home, and there was visiting was a guy named Dr. James Leggett. And Dr. Leggett was worked in an underground lockdown facility in Chicago, Illinois as a chemistry engineer. He had a lot of patents, discovered a lot of things, but the thing he regretted, he was sharing this with my 16-year-old future wife at the time, and all the kids were out playing, but for some reason, Wendy was there sitting around, and he starts telling a story. And what he regretted the most was figuring out how to chemically addict people to foods. In 1996, I was in a big convention with Paul Zane Pilzer, who was a consultant for both pharmaceutical companies and food companies. And he said, and I'll never forget this because it's just stuck so right in my brain, was that, he says, the marketing guys would love to know who's buying their stuff. He says, but you got these people buying all this junk food and they're hooked to that. And they know the food companies know that they can get them addicted to that, and they get them addicted to something else. And then meanwhile, the pharmaceutical companies are waiting because they're going to get sick on it. He says, you kind of think they're in on it together, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he actually is the one who predicted that the doctor of the future would be more in that wellness care. That was Paul Zane Pilsner, who actually, I think he was a consultant to one of the presidents, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
He made that statement then that we were moving into a wellness-based model, because in him saying that is really kind of motivated us to move into this somatic model, a 21st century healing professional who's trained to grow health as opposed to treat, because everybody else basically treats, whether medically, chiropractically, homeopathically, allopathically, naturopathically. It's all therapy and treatment.
Right.
The actual growing of health is a dynamic, and it takes a little bit of cross-training or retraining or updating.
So going back 30 years of my life, if I walked into your clinic as someone who's sucking down 6 Coca-Colas a day and 2 Reese's peanut butter cups and a couple Snickers bars, and you start introducing, you have these, the acupuncture, the homeopathy, I would going to say my mind would be blown. And I'm sure you have clients come in that way today. How do you take them from the baby steps? Like you say, they're there for a physical, I hurt, I want changed. How do you walk them through that process? So
our goal is to allow them a series of successes.
Okay.
They're coming in, they're a little hurt. They come back, they feel a little better. Then you take them from that little bit better to a little bit better. We don't initially address lifestyle. We get into the case mostly with the homeopathic remedies, because once we animate them with the remedies last anywhere from 30 days to 3 months, 3-4 months, and then we repeat the remedies to the point where they're into it now. They are feeling better. Then we get into lifestyle. So that might be 3, 4, 6 months down the road before we get into the lifestyle, because we are creatures of habit. And if you start changing habits too quickly, you're going to lose that individual. And that's unfortunate, because you lose an individual. That's an individual who you could have grown into health had you have done things differently. And then we do a diet diary, metabolic profile, symptoms. We have them write down for 10 days, everything they're eating. You'll be surprised of the people who, when they're writing it down, all of a sudden, the sobering experience of watching them write this down for 10 days. They had no idea they're drinking 6 to 8 Diet Cokes or Diet Pepsis a day. They had no idea that they're eating all of this junk and candy, and they're writing it down, and we have them write it down so that we have some idea of the chemistry they're introducing to their body. Then we do a metabolic profile. This is based on Smith-Klein-White, and it's basically identifies an individual as a carb burner, a protein based on, as the theory that is based on the pituitary, the thyroid, and the adrenals. And whatever one's more dominant in your metabolism is going to dictate your metabolic process, and then you need to introduce chemicals that are going to do that. So if you're a protein burner, you eat a bunch of carbs like most people are doing, you've got issues. If you're more of a carb burner and you're trying the paleo, keto, that whatever the diet of the month is, you may have issues. You give a side of beef to a vegetarian, you've got issues. So before we address the lifestyles, we got to get to know how best to do that, and more, what the person would more likely adapt to. That adds to those series of successes. All of a sudden, you gently start changing their diet and their lifestyle. If it's really bad, we put them on a 30-day detoxification process using standard process products, only because we've had such success with it, not that it's the greatest out there. I'm sure there are other ways of doing it. And for 30 days, we introduce those cells. Now, the cells in your body, your red blood cells, turn over every 4 months, every 120 days. So if I give you good quality food for 30 days, I've introduced all the new cells that you've made in 30 days to good quality stuff. And now you set up an area where that person doesn't want, those cells don't want the junk.
Right.
All of a sudden, they don't want 6 to 8 Diet Cokes, etc. So then we have them write down the symptom survey form, which is where they outline all of the symptoms they may have. It's sort of like a 2-page form, and you'll be surprised that what they're eating and what their metabolism needs shows up in the symptoms they have. So then we move more into the nutritional aspect of it. Then we start moving the meridians, and a little structure and function mobilizing. And then we create this whole picture. And as the person is growing from that point on, we basically support them. And then we tend to see our patients 4 times a year, once a season. They're solstice people, they're equinox people. So there are those people who have a tougher time during spring and fall, then there are other people summer and winter. And so we check them once every 3 months.
Okay, so back up there, hold on. So you say you have solstice people and equinox people. Explain that a bit for the guests that are listening to this.
You have those people who are more sensitive to spring and fall. These are your allergy, mucus, headache, migraine type people. Those are your equinox people. And then you have your solstice people, summer, winter. Those are your moody blues people. These are people more prone to the summertime blues or the wintertime suicides. The winter, like winter solstice, the inversion layer and all that. People who are really sensitive really have a tough time this time of year. So you need to know that. So our work is about identifying. It takes almost a year to really get to know the person you're working with. the symptoms will go away months. It doesn't take long to get rid of people's symptoms and growing them out. The work comes in maintaining them, because half of our intakes, new intakes, are people I saw when I first came here. People I hadn't seen in 10, 15 plus years. All of a sudden they're coming back now.
Yeah.
Because they got better and left. They treated us like naturopaths, and now they're coming back. But once they come back and we put them on our system and we maintain them pretty much the rest of their lives, they're living that joyful and painless life.
Right. Well, like I've always advocated, a baby doesn't come to earth craving a beer or a soda or chips or anything like that. That's all learned behavior, and that's the first introduction to becoming chemically addicted to those items. I was there. I was one of them.
Yeah, well, you develop those habits, and those habits we develop, we grow into that lifestyle that supports that habit. You change those habits and start the body growing out of that, you grow out of that, and you develop new habits that support the new you you're growing into, that new you. Those cells that are grown with good quality stuff crave good quality stuff.
Right. Yeah. We had a heroin addict in here sometime back, and he was sugar addict as well. And the organic soups and vegetables were not something looking at it, he goes, no, I don't want that. About 5 days into it, he started, okay, I'll have this. And it tasted good. Get this, he tried to smoke a cigarette after 10 days of doing the colonics on our 10-day retreat. His body rejected, he threw up.
No, isn't that fun? I love it. Yeah.
And here's the crime. He then was told, he had a family uncle or somebody intervene and said, oh my gosh, you got to get him into XYZ detox, for people that are, dealing with these things. The first thing they told me to do was go ahead and smoke cigarettes because, we're going to put you on some drugs and we're going to start, that's better than, the heroin. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That first step was there.
Well, yeah, I know. Those are the unfortunate things. We all go through them,
Yeah.
I try not to get too high on our successes or too low on our failures. You just stay on purpose, stay on mission, do what you do well, appropriately refer to people who can do something better than you.
Right.
And be grateful to the Almighty for the opportunity to take care of their people. This is not, it's not us, it's them that brings about the healing.
So when your assistant called me, she was talking about this healing arts in your wellness center, and you're actually have a school now, correct?
Yeah, see, I came here to teach. I came here to teach homeopathy. 1996. And as a favor, one of the students who asked me, well, could you see one of my people, as a favor? Well, it was either, I didn't know anything about Boise, Idaho, so I'm going to sit in a hotel, watch HBO, or help somebody. And so I said, sure. And from that one patient, 26 years later, we had 2 practices, one in Boise. We shut after COVID, we went on telehealth like everybody else. We didn't need 2 offices anymore. And so 26 years later, here I am.
Now you full time.
It was never in my business plan to come to Nampa, Idaho. That was never in my business plan.
Yeah.
And, it becomes a calling. Like I talk about the ministry. It's a ministry. It's a calling. And so if you're obedient and you hear the calling, then you go where you're called. You go where you're sent.
I want to go back for just a moment, because there's one thing that in homeopathy that I always found blew my mind was that you said similars. And so can you explain that a little deeper, like chemically, what, like if someone had, let's say, I don't know, a virus or asthma, I'll let you pick it, and you say you're going to give them something similar to stimulate that. Explain that a little bit better.
Because everyone, has, let's take COVID, that's the flavor of the month right now.
Right.
So everybody is exposed to COVID. You have some people who it's not going to affect them at all. If they're similar to COVID, COVID has a resonation. If you resonate with COVID and it's similar, and if you're stronger, you're going to eradicate that energy and it's not going to affect you at all. If you're weaker and COVID resonation is stronger and you're similar, then COVID could kill you. Those are the people who die.
Okay.
Now, if you're dissimilar, you're resonating on this frequency, COVID's resonating on another, a different frequency. If you're stronger than the COVID and dissimilar, then you could become a carrier. It's not you, and you're not even knowing. This is what all that testing is all about. That's
Right.
why they're testing you to find out people who are perfectly healthy, but yet they have a carrier. If you're dissimilar and the COVID is stronger and you are weaker, you become a long hauler. That's the person who gets it, gets over it, but they don't get and see the constant here is health. If you're similar and healthy, it doesn't affect you. If you're dissimilar and healthy, you may be a carrier, but it doesn't affect you at all. So the thing is, the movement here, and while medical science is having such a challenge with this, is because they're trying to fight nature. You can't do that. You have to go along with the expressions of nature. And in order to do that, you have to grow health. You can't treat the disease. You have to enhance health. Health is the thing. You have to make people well.
Okay, let's take the COVID person. I come to you. I'm weaker, so I'm a potential long hauler. I don't have the best diet. Where do you start with them? What do you give them, a homeopathic remedy? Do you?
First I have to do is find out, because with all the people with COVID, no two people express COVID the same. You have people who can't breathe and they're hysterical. They're going out of their mind, etc. Then you have another person who can't breathe and they're indifferent. Well, if I die, I die. So you have to take the pick. You have those who have bad dreams with the COVID. You have those who have diarrhea in the COVID, or migraines with the COVID. Those who have a constant fever that can't crack with the COVID. So it's not the treatment of the COVID. It is addressing the patient, the individual. So this is the cumbersome part of physiatry. Unlike medicine, where everybody gets a vaccination, everybody gets the same thing. In physiatry, you have to treat everyone individually, one individual at a time. So there is no one treatment, although you have 10 people come in with similar, they all have fever, they all have cough, they can't breathe, etc. But they're all 10 different approaches to it.
Right. Yeah. So no, what you're saying is you'll pull out those tools out of your toolbox depending upon what you discover.
So this person may get this remedy, another one to get that remedy, this one to get this remedy plus these nutrients, and it depends on what that person's expression is.
Yeah. Are you getting phone calls now from people saying, hey, I messed up, I really regret getting the shot?
Yes.
What can you
know
do?
What I'm so excited about?
What?
I'm so excited about it. We're getting more and more calls of people who want to address their health. And yes, a lot of them come in, they say, I'm sorry I got the shot. Many people are saying, well, I got the shot, but I'm not taking the boost. You get a lot of those people. But what they're really saying is, I want to get healthy. I mean, COVID in many ways has been good for business, for people who are, and I am so excited about people who are now taking their health into their hands. More than ever. I mean, it's this trend, this mentality has been growing, for a while. And so I don't deal with, we have vaccinated people, unvaccinated people. That's your personal choice. We don't fight that. You let you have your choice. But if people who are calling us who want to get healthy, I want to be better, I want to feel better, those calls have continued.
Right. Well, it is, concerning when I started down this road in 1991, it's exciting to see, the field is, I mean, the options have grown in this valley. Of course, the valley's grown, but I remember when there was just a few acupuncturists here.
Yeah.
And, and same with naturopathy. There was only just maybe a handful, maybe, back in those days, back in the day.
Back in the day, I don't hear much about. I don't know if there are a lot of many acupuncturists or naturopaths now. I don't hear. They had the big movement. Then I did my fellowship in acupuncture. I was eligible to become board certified in the They had just, former Governor Kempthorne, I believe it was, had just signed the acupuncture bill law, and he also signed the naturopathic, but it became such a fiasco that I guess they took that one back. Right. But I was board, I don't know if I still am, but I was board eligible to get a certification in acupuncture. And I didn't because I was waiting for them to straighten out what was going on with naturopathy, which never really happened. Right. But I don't know if there are a lot of naturopaths nor acupuncturists in Idaho to this day.
Well, there's a lot more than there used to be. I know that.
There are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm out of touch. I used to be in touch with them. I don't.
Right. In fact, every day I learned another new one. It's like, oh, I didn't know that person. Okay, good, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know. I know Carfeld. I know him.
Yeah.
And a couple others. That's about it. I don't know of anyone else.
Yeah. No, it's really grown. It's kind of exciting to see. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, I remember trying to get a massage in the early 80s. That was hard to find.
Oh yeah, when I came here in this 96, it was underground. It was
and I was going all the way to Bliss, Idaho to get a massage, or actually Hagerman, Idaho to get a massage.
It's different now. There's some medical doctors and doing functional medicine now, and it's all out there. But if you do, one thing I've learned in Idaho, you do people right, you treat them right, you make them well, you help them, they are loyal and they refer. I mean, like I say, I did not come here to practice. I came here and did it as a favor, never believing that I'd still be here 26 years later.
Right. Let's talk about acupuncture for just a moment. So, some people, oh my, you're gonna stick a needle in me. Let's just tell the listeners how that works. How do you determine where you're going to put the needle, and what is happening when you put that needle in there?
So in the acupuncture system, there are portholes, vessels similar to blood vessels that run, 14 vessels that run throughout your body, and they transmit nerve energy. Now the chiropractic system says that animating energy is moving through the nervous system. The osteopaths, the initial osteopaths, said that energy was running through the blood supply. Acupuncture says it's running through an energetic vessel they call meridians. And so when those meridians get out of focus or out of tune, whereas in chiropractic, it would be manipulated or adjusted, if you would, to realign it, similar to what osteopathy would do. The homeopath would give a homeopathic remedy. The acupuncture system would insert a needle into well-selected points within that meridian line, which was designed to retune, focus, or drain that energy. And the response to that would be what we call the physis process, facilitating that energy to get it moving. So it's all about moving what is considered to be blockage.
Excellent.
But it's all the same thing. I mean, this is what semiatry is all about. Those are all methodologies, chiropractic, acupuncture, these are methods. And semiatrist, what we're teaching, semiatry, we're teaching you those laws and the methods to appropriately apply those laws. Instead of denominational medicine, chiropractic, osteopathic, naturopathic, those are denominations.
Is there, considering as broad as the toolbox, I call them the toolboxes that you have, is there, I mean, what's a perfect client and what's an imperfect client? I mean, who's a client you don't want to see versus one that, yeah, that's somebody I'd love to work with?
Compliance. I want a patient that's compliant. I don't care if they're moody, if they're grumpy, they can argue with me, we can fuss, we can fight, I don't care. But if they're compliant, that's my perfect patient. And if they're not compliant, then I just assume them not waste their time and their money and my time.
Right. Yeah.
And I love the skeptical, because they turn into our best patients. The ones who come under duress. They come because their wife forced them to come, and or their mom or dad told them to come. You know, that's the guy. Those are the people I like, because they're coming and they don't believe in it. They don't want to believe in it. They don't care about it. But then once they start experiencing what life, health, and healing really is, those are the ones who stick with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your school. Who's a good candidate to go? Can anyone come through your school?
Yes, we start off. We're in the process of rewriting a curriculum. It was a natural medical curriculum, and we, like I say, we kind of shifted into ministry. So we're rewriting the curriculum, and we into 5 levels: the apprenticeship, shepherd, anointed shepherd, servant, anointed servant. And the whole thing is to teach all the tools and all the schools and all of that. And so that when you're finished, you can do whatever is needed by that individual, and you're not limited by one denomination or one philosophical approach or whatever.
So you're actually teaching these students?
We're developing the program now. We're planning on starting in the spring.
Okay.
You know, we have traditionally worked with physicians, so we've been doing continuing ed and postgraduate work primarily in California. We're leaving the doctors. We'll probably continue to do that in California, but here in Idaho and Boise area, we're starting the apprentice program. So anyone with a high school diploma or GED can start from there, and we're going to take them through the whole program. To go from apprentice to anointed servant take about 12 years.
Are you learning, is a person going to learn how to be a chiropractor, or are they going to learn how to be an
Well, we're not going to teach any denomination. They're not going to be a chiropractor, but they will learn the laws of structure and function.
Okay.
It's basically the law of structure and function. And we can call it chiropractic, osteopathic, naturopathy.
Right.
You know, it's all one law. It's just the law of structure and function.
Okay.
So no, we're not going to train anyone to become a chiropractor, but we're going to train them in the dynamics of structure and function.
Okay. Excellent. And how do they get a hold of you? How do they, if they're interested in either coming to be seen by you and treated, or
now they call us
school.
Our number 208-342-4215. That's the number to the Healing Arts Center. You know, and if they want, they can start there. I mean, it's all here. And that's probably, you know, sort of, we have a school number 208-467 what was it, 3211, but the 208-342-4215 will get you here, and from there you can go wherever you want to go.
Excellent. So if you want to learn about, if you're interested in health, you want to learn all about that, then you don't pronounce this right? Cuvius,
Quantum Veritas. My school, the University of Pasadena School of Chiropractic, went through a few name changes. It became the Pasadena College of Chiropractic. Then it became Southern California College of Chiropractic. When I returned there in 1994, when I became president of the school, we renamed it Quantum University because we wanted to shift from a college that teaches you how to do things to a university that teaches you how to think. So instead of teaching people how to do things, we wanted to teach them how to think dynamically, which was the fundamental principle of the University of Pasadena. That school and the Veritas International University, which was a postgraduate naturopathic school, and International College of Homeopathy, where your Dr. Patrick went to, became Quantum Veritas International University System under one charter.
Excellent. Excellent. Wow, I've learned a lot today. I so appreciate you being on the program.
Oh, it's fun. I enjoyed it.
I was just going to talk about homeopathy. We got the whole thing.
Well, yeah, we can do it again and talk about whatever else. But you're a delight. It's been fun.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Floyd. I sure appreciate you coming on. And if you want to get a hold of Dr. Floyd, again, the phone number is 208-342-4215. He's got a website, qvius.org. You can go there as well. I'm David DeHaas from the Whole Body Detox Show. We'll be back again next week with another exciting show. Stop record. Hi, guys. We begin today's show. I want to ask you to do yourself a favor. If you have been listening to the show for any length of time, I have done 5 shows on harmful effects of electromagnetic radiation from small cell towers. The D.C. Court of Appeals ruled in August that the FCC was arbitrary, capricious, and unlawful in stating that the towers cause no harm, as there are well over 18,000 studies showing harm. Boise and Meridian have failed to stop the deployment of these dangerous towers, and we have already seen people go into AFib, brain fog, sleep issues, and cancer. We must stop this, so Idahoans for Safe Technology is mounting a legal fund to go to court. We need your participation in raising money for the legal team. Go to idahoansforsafetechnology.org. Buy yourself 1 raffle ticket or 100 raffle tickets, as many as you want, to win a side of beef. And if you want to know more about the harmful effects, go to last week's show where I interviewed our guest, Dr. Martin Paul, at wholebodydetoxshow.com. That's wholebodydetoxshow.com. Look up Dr. Martin Paul. You can't treat the body and heal it a piece at a time. You have to treat the whole body naturally. That's why Living Waters Wellness Center 10-day healing retreat is so successful in helping what I call the incurables back to wellness. Here's what a few clients had to say about their experience at Living Waters Wellness Center.
For over a year, I've been dealing with gas pains, stomach pains, and it's been waking me up in the middle of the night, so I never get a full night's rest. And last night, after my first colonics, I slept through the entire night without any stomach pain or any kind of issues.
I suffered from migraine headaches for 12 years, once a month, and since I did the 10-day retreat at Living Waters Wellness Center 8 years ago, I have not even had a migraine. I've not even had a headache.
I had back pain on my left side for about 20-25 years. After the 10-day healing retreat, the pain is completely gone.
To learn more about the 10-day healing retreat, go to healingtheincurables.com or call the office at 208-378-9911. That's 208-378-9911. The preceding examples may not be typical of your experience and may not be right for you. Seek the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional before determining if cleansing is right for you.